action. Hello and welcome to another episode of Moose's Gear Goo Review. I'm Moose, and today we have a knife review of a super exciting, awesome knife. This is the CRKT Pilar III. The CRKT Pilar III. Pardon the smudges, I had my hands all over this thing. Alright guys, so here's the knife. This is it. This is super cool offerings from CRKT. New for 2021. Definitely starting off the year right with something good. We'll go over the specs and we'll get right into this knife because there's a lot to say about it already. I pulled the trigger on this knife right away, and because I own the other Pilars, Pilars, whatever you want to call it. It's so early that all the specs aren't even up on the website yet as far as cutting length and stuff, so we'll get into that. But the overall length is 7.25 inches. The blade length is 3 inches. The blade thickness is 0.15 inches thick. The handle length is 4 1/4 inches. And then the overall weight is 3.6 ounces. So it's a little bit heftier of a knife, but at the same time, it really isn't. As far as the cutting edge goes, if we put the tip at the start there and roll the cut, looks about 2.75 inches in cutting length, which is, it's smaller. It does have a forward finger choil, so that's going to be factored in there. But yeah, here it is, guys. This is the Pilar III, and I couldn't be happier or more excited about this. When I saw it announced on Blade HQ and Knife Center and stuff, I really liked the overall look and design of this knife. At the same time, it was hard at first to kind of recognize where it came from. So if you're not familiar, I'll bring out the family of knives here. So that's the Pilar III back there, the Pilar Large, the original Pilar. So now there's very few knives that I have the whole set of. So I have 4 Pilars. I am a fan of this design. I am a fan of the variations in them. The first design is what really started this off, and supposedly the Pilar or Pilar, however you want to say it, because there's always a debate, is named after, what's his name's boat. The one guy that lived down in the Keys, he had a boat called the Pilar or something. Maybe I'll find a video and link it to the description of that guy's boat if I can find some on Wikipedia, but that's where this name comes from. And it's a cool Jesper's Voxnaze design. You can see that in his design. He's commonly has those bean-shaped or pill-shaped thumbhole openings. He likes a lot of sheep's foot designs, and so this is definitely a classic Jesper's Voxnaze design. And you can see it right on the bottom of the blade there, Pilar. And from this original design, and this is obviously a third-party scale, they had other releases. This is the carbon fiber one, which I believe is an S35VN or S30V. Pretty sure it's S35VN. And they're sweet. And from there, people wanted a little bit bigger one, so they got this one, and they made this one a flipper. So you have your traditional thumbhole opening, and it also flips. This is in D2, and finally we're off to this one. And this one, it's larger than the other two, but it also gives it just a more practical blade shape. And so that's the history of the different designs, and maybe I'll do a different comparison as far as what I think is the best Pilar. Right now this one's pretty much competing for it, but there's definitely improvements and definitely things that can go good for either one. That being said, the overall blade shape here, now you still have that kind of pill-shaped opening. You have a nice flat ground, saber grind, plain edge blade. that kind of has a continuous belly to it. I mean, it might be considered a flat here, but then you got that slight up curve on the actual edge of the blade there. But they call this a spear point or a modified spear point. I'd say it's almost more like a modified sheep's foot, because you definitely have that boom and then the drop into a sheep's. It could even just be considered a drop point, but definitely a unique shaped blade, but it still ties in kind of the style and the image of the original sheep's foot, just almost like they just took the tip and pulled it out and like stretched it out. There is no jimping up top. The branding on there, you got the CRKT, you have the Pilar Voxnays, then you have this little, if I can get it in there, that little circle. That is saying that it's on the IKBS ball bearings for opening, which makes it super smooth. I love the blade, satin finish, really nice. It has that finger choil there, so you can bite up, and this is the most comfortable position, I believe, when you're holding it. Going into the handle, it is the thumb hole opening only, but you can access it from the back and do a spider flick. Very, very nice. It is a frame lock. So going into the handle, I don't want to make this video too long. You have this nice, very plain G10 handle scale. It has a nice cloth texture to it. All the hardware are polished silver. You have a really cool kind of gray or matte silver aluminum backspacer with a nice, very generous lanyard hole for any of you lanyard guys. To it just gives it a little contrast of color, and then it just kind of pops out, so it gives it a little unique design flair. You do have some minor scalloping to form some texture on that lock bar, but it is a frame lock, a stainless steel frame lock, which actually feels really good. It's not too strong, works really well. So on the stainless steel part, you have the frame lock. You have a really nice deep carry pocket clip. This pocket clip is awesome. Definitely an upgrade in design. It's the first deep carry fold over pocket clip on a Pilar, and they did it right with the recessed screws. So nice flat hardware recessed screws. The other cool innovative thing they did is they have that little screw there, which is a over travel stop, which you might not be able to see. Kind of see it in there. So they have a over travel stop to protect that lock bar. Really cool design feature. Now the other thing too is because it's a stainless steel frame lock, a lot of times stainless steel frame locks have an extra liner on the opposite side. This doesn't, so it's just G10. So you have one scale stainless steel, one scale pure G10, and that really lightens the load. And I think if you watch my unboxing video, which I'll put in the card in the right hand corner there, it's one of the comments I make right away is like, it's much lighter than I thought. It is a thicker piece of steel, so it does carry some weight, but 3.6 ounces makes this more than pocketable, in my opinion, for the size of the knife. Now, looking at it, you can see that obviously it is a larger handle to blade ratio. Typically, I like a more balanced ratio of 50-50, but with that forward finger choil, you have plenty of grip even for larger hands with a slightly smaller blade. So, it works. I still prefer a 50-50 split, but for this knife, it definitely works. The IKBS bearings are just awesome. Makes this super smooth and drop shutty. The one thing you need to note is that if you are in a state that has a drop open laws, this can drop open, as you can see here. So if that's a problem, always check your local laws, but just make sure you tighten up that pivot screw, put some pressure on there so it doesn't drop open. Came pretty centered, pretty good overall, and it came decently sharp. Now this is the HCR13 MOV variant. They are releasing a D2 version that I didn't know about. I just saw this and I pulled the trigger. But there is an upgraded one, and it's going to cost about $12 to $15 difference between the HCR and the D2 version. The one gripe I do have is that there is no steel stamp on the blade anywhere, so you don't know if it's what steel it is. The way they're distinguishing the D2 one is that the backspacer, I believe, is a bronze or a gold color. So that'll be a way to distinguish. But it's kind of the same with this Pilar. This is S35VN, but it's not marked on there. So if anyone switches the blades, I mean, these look the same. It could be the same blade, but this one's way cheaper and that one's more expensive. So I wish they would at least put a blade steel mark on there. So let's compare it to some other knives real quick. Got this one. We have the CRKT Pete. We'll do the Odium, CRKT Odium, or no, the Civivi Odium. We'll do the Kaiser Mini Sheepdog, and we'll do the Wii, whatchamacallit. So as you can see, blade length wise, you know, it's 3 inches, so it's a little bit bigger than all of these knives. Handle wise, it definitely has the longest handle out of all of them, about a ½ inch longer. But overall cutting length, it's actually about the same size, slightly larger than the Pete, bigger than the Odium, same blade, actual cutting length of the Banter, and slightly larger than that. So let's compare blade thickness. The Kaiser Sheepdog, you can see it's definitely thicker. Yeah, you can feel the weight on that knife. Pretty good comparison. I guess I didn't realize how thick the blade stock on the Pete was, but that's pretty good. The Civivi Odium, definitely a lighter, thinner knife. And then the Banter, the Wii Banter, definitely lighter, but very comparable. I will say the ergos on this compared to those other knives feels really good when you're in that forward finger choil. It definitely feels much more nimble. But yeah, so I don't know, the big pros for me on this knife for sure are this pocket clip, which is just nice to see, a fold over deep carry pocket clip. I really like this design, and I hope this design, a pocket clip, continues on to some other CRKT knives. They definitely hit a home run with the Pete pocket clip, and I think the feedback from that really tells knife makers, hey, we like fold over pocket clips with recessed screws. Other than that, I mean, the ergos on this are just fantastic. When you're here, it's really good. When you bite back here, it's a little bit short on the handle, but you can still get it. It's definitely big enough. The other thing I really like is when it does fold up, it actually has a fairly slim profile. You know, if you compare it to the Mini Sheepdog, Sheepdog's a smaller knife, but it's much fatter and wider as far as taking up real estate. So definitely like that about this design. Then two, it's just so smooth opening. Those ball bearing pivot is just awesome. So last test is the ugly brown glove test. It's tight, make it quick, can open it, can disengage the lock. G10's good. Finger choil's good. Does it pass? Yes. What do I give it? I'll give it a B+. Could be some jimping up there to make it a little better, but definitely passes. So, excellent job. I like this knife. Who do I think it's for? Honestly, I think it could go either way. If you like larger, a slightly larger knife, this is just great all around urban EDC, utility EDC. Backpacking, it's a little heavy, but you can definitely get away with it. It just has a really great build quality and like function. Like this is one of those knives like that you could use in a multitude of situations and stuff. So yeah, I think it's honestly for everyone. Obviously, it's pushing a little bit on the urban EDC for me, but I still think it would manage. And yeah, it's just a solid knife for the money. And between this one and the D2 version, either way, at the most, you're gonna pay around 50 to 60 bucks. And for D2 knife with these features, design quality, and everything, like that's worth it. And this one at the time, I got it for like $40. So even for $40 with HCR, I'm very, very happy. So there you have it, guys. Here's your first impression, or well, my review. I did get to cut some stuff out in the woods and stuff with it. It works great. Highly recommend this one. Highly recommend some of these other ones as well. I'll do a comparison video later, but fantastic knife. So please let me know what you think of this knife. If you want the HCR 13 version or the D2 version. Also, it's a popular knife, so I know there's going to be some exclusives and some more premium versions coming out of this knife. So if you want, you might want to wait for one of those to pop up. But either way, you can't go wrong. Excellent knife for the money. Please let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. And peace. I'll see you outside. Bye.